linked together, not just with each other, but with the birds and the trees and the worms and the snakes. We're all stuck in this matrix of air. Now, there was a wonderful thought exercise that was carried out many years ago by an American astronomer named Harlow Shapley. He said, I want to follow one breath of air and see what happens to it. Well, how do you do that? 1% of the air is an atom called argon. Argon is an inert substance. It doesn't react with anything. So you breathe it in, it goes into your body, you breathe it out, comes right straight back out. So argon is a good atom to follow. How many atoms of argon are there in one breath of air? It's 3 followed by 18 zeros. That's a lot of argon. Very quickly, everybody in this room is breathing gazillions of argon atoms from that one breath. The door opens, out that argon goes across Vancouver, across British Columbia, around the world. And 1 year later, if we came back into this room, every breath would have about 15 argon atoms from that one breath I took a year ago. So on that basis, Shapley calculates every breath we take has millions of argon atoms that were once in the bodies of Joan of Arc and Jesus Christ. That every breath we take has argon atoms that were in the bodies of dinosaurs 65 million years ago. That every breath we take will suffuse every life form as far as we can see into the future. So air is this wonderful substance that gives life to us and that connects us all to all living creatures and to the past and into the future. Every one of us is at least 60% water by weight. We're basically a big blob of water with enough organic thickener added so we don't dribble away on the floor. The problem is our bodies leak water. It comes out of my skin and my eyes and my mouth and my crotch. We're losing water all the time. And the amazing thing is our bodies know that. We don't have a big gauge here telling you whether you're near empty, but our bodies all the time know exactly how much water is in the body. Tells us, hey, you're getting thirsty because we're getting low, or we have to go to the bathroom because we're too topped up. Our bodies are constantly keeping the level of water just right. The first lesson I remember from grade school was a water cycle. Water covers 70% of the planet, evaporates, forms clouds, rains on the land, runs into rivers and lakes, evaporates. Water cartwheels around the planet through the hydrologic cycle. Water is this connector, just as air is. Water connects us all together. We are water. And that water has come from all over the planet. And whatever we do to the water, we're doing directly to ourselves. Children love to call it dirt. And of course, the minute you say dirt, it's dirty, it's something that you don't like. Even the word soil, which is the proper word to refer to this thin layer on the earth that keeps us alive, we talk about soiled clothes. One of the great gifts that my mother gave to me, I would go out in the spring and get completely wet and covered in mud gathering salamander and frog eggs. She never once bawled me out. She just celebrated when I'd bring home this jar of eggs and loved it. And I've always appreciated that from my mother. We were never afraid to jump in the dirt or in the mud and cover ourselves with it. The soil is what keeps us alive. And it's, you know, you talk about the atmosphere being thin, narrow. The soil is just a very, very thin layer. We are the earth. We are the soil in the most profound way, because most of the food that we eat grew in the soil. I mean, you take it into your mouth, then you break food apart, and you actually take the molecules out of the food and make it into what we are. We are the earth. because we are created from molecules that plants and animals have absorbed from the soil, and we make it into our own bodies. We are fire because every bit of the energy that makes us grow and move and reproduce, all of that energy in our bodies, which is chemical energy stored in our bodies, originated as sunlight. Plants found a way to capture the energy in sunlight through what we call photosynthesis, convert that sunlight into chemical energy, a sugar that can be stored. And that sugar holds the energy, and when we burn sugar, we release that energy, and then we can then exploit it. So we, as carnivores, eat other animals, or we eat plants, get that sunlight captured in plants to make up our bodies. We are fire in the most profound way. Now the interesting thing is, every bit of the fire that we make on Earth, outside of our bodies, all of that was sunlight captured by plants, and then stored as fossil fuels or as trees that we cut down or peat that we harvest. So every bit of the energy that we use was originally sunlight. We are fire. Imagine that scientists have made a great breakthrough. They've invented a time machine. I punch in the button and boom, we're back 4 billion years ago. Now, of course, we want to go out and see what is a planet like before life arose. We open the door, walk out, and in less than 2 minutes, every one of us is dead. Why? Because the air was absolutely poisonous. It was filled with carbon dioxide and there was no oxygen. It wasn't until life arose and then discovered photosynthesis that plants were able to remove carbon dioxide and in photosynthesis and put out an end product of oxygen. And over millions of years, plants changed the air to one that animals can breathe. Okay, well, we knew that before we left. So if we reach down under our seat, what do you know? There's a tank of air. Put that on, put our helmets on, turn on the air, and out we go. After a few hours, I'd imagine we'd get thirsty. Where would we find water that we would trust to drink? The way that we get water that's drinkable is the water falls on the ground, and as it percolates through the soil, fungi, plant roots, bacteria, microorganisms filter out the toxic materials so that we can ultimately drink it. Before there was any life, you'd have to be very nervous about what you want to drink because there was nothing to filter it for us. Well, we knew that too. If you reach further under your chair, what you find is a bottle of water, and we can attach that to our helmet. Out we go, we can drink the water, and after more hours, I'd imagine you'd get hungry. Where in a world where there's no life would we find anything to eat? Because every bit of our nutrition that we need to make our bodies was once alive, a plant or an animal. Before there was any life, there was nothing to eat. Well, we knew that. We've got a huge pile of food here. We even brought some seeds along to plant. So let's see if we can plant some lettuce and radish. Where would we find any soil to plant the seeds in? Soil is by definition created by the carcasses of living things that then die and give their molecules to the matrix of dust, silt, gravel, sand, clay. It is life that creates soil that we can grow our food in. And finally, if the sun sets and we decide, gee, it would be nice to have a little fire to feel comfortable and at home, where would you find anything to burn 4 billion years ago? All of our fuel is created by life. Okay, we've also got a stack of wood and some kindling and paper, so we can make a little pile. Take a match, strike it, nothing happens. In order to have a flame, you have to have oxygen. But before there were plants on the planet, there was no oxygen. So before life arose, there was no fire anywhere on Earth. The point is that the web of living things, biodiversity, created the very elements that we need to survive.